What you doing picking in them people's window?
All right, Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid has come out liking tweets, being like, listen, there's no problem here. I can't imagine that there is a serious issue between Jimmy Butler and Joel Embiid. I'll start right here. If I'm Joel Embiid, I'm frustrated because you're not playing as much, right? You sat the back-to-back, or that sat the other night last week. And also, it's not a bad thing. It's the reality of it, where if you're cruising and then somebody comes in and nothing is stopping from the team aspect, but you go from MVP numbers to maybe not as much MVP numbers, you might be frustrated. It doesn't mean you're frustrated at the reason why your numbers are dropping, like, oh man, somebody's got to go, like get Jimmy Butler out of here. It's like, all right, my numbers might be not the same as people talking about me like they were 2 weeks ago, which is Joel Embiid, the best player in the NBA, MVP. We're all vain to an extent, right? I don't need to pull a card out and say, who's the most vain. We all have vanity in us, right? You point at Brian or Crystal?
It would work either way.
Oh, just that couch?
either
vain?
Couch.
See, I wasn't
How
just...
did that happen?
How
did that just happen?
First of all, I know I'm a woman, but I care less about things that actual women care about. Like, I don't care really too much about designer purses, red bottom shoes.
She's sitting there in her Morocco.
Exactly.
This is a
whole
solo earrings.
The person makes the clothes. The clothes don't make the person. I got this abroad in Morocco. I didn't go to like some crazy.
This is real gold. This is real gold right here. This is.
Anyway, didn't appreciate that comment. Now you may continue.
But I was saying, as far as I get it. That's the human element of it. But this thing has been blown up. Like Joel Embiid and Jimmy Butler have some sort of beef, and that Embiid is a little upset about the arrival of Butler. Come on, B. It's hard for me to think that.
I don't know that he's mad that Butler's here. I think that his game has to change to accommodate Jimmy Butler. And when you go from being that guy to be the second guy, and I think if this team is going to be successful, I think a lot of guys feel that way. Now, in order for this team to go to the next level, he can't be the guy. Because in the NBA, if your big man is averaging 28 points with a bunch of shots, you can't win. The league isn't built that way. It's not a big man league anymore. So this team is absolutely built wrong if they want to win long term with Joel Embiid being the highest scorer in the team. It's built wrong. The only way for this team to be successful is for Jimmy Butler to get 28 every game. And they're going to have to get another guard to get you 28 a game. And Joel Embiid will get you 18 off the board. And I'm not running plays for you. Every now and then I'll run a play for you, but we're not running plays for you consistently down the court if this team wants to win.
You're going to take 10 points a night away from him?
Different league, absolutely. Because you know why? Because it's a three-point game. The league is totally different.
He can shoot threes.
It's not the same. It's not the same. You need a guard. You need to have two guards that can score and a third guy that can get you 15 to 20 every night.
I'm with you on you need to have two guards that can score. Very big on that. That's been my biggest criticism against Ben Simmons. However, going forward, you know what? First of all, I just love the honesty of Joel Embiid because once he sucks, he tells you in the post game saying that exact word, I sucked. Yep. So we shouldn't be surprised that he said to the media that he is disappointed in his role since Jimmy Butler has got here. All right, so you go back to the Toronto game, 5 of 17 shooting. He did not get to the foul line as much. He has not made a three-point shot since he's played the Wizards. Is that Jimmy Butler's fault that he hasn't been hitting from behind the arc? No, that's not Jimmy Butler's fault. Does he have to find a new role for himself, or does he have to fit into a new role? Absolutely, but so does the whole entire team. There's nothing wrong with growing pains for a certain amount of time as long as you grow from those pains. Now that it's vocal, now that it's out there, and Jimmy Butler, he called Joel Embiid the best player on this team. Now, this is a guy who's 29. Joel Embiid is much younger than that. So for him to even say that shows you that he has the heart to want to make it work with Joel Embiid.
Or he just know how to say the right thing.
It could be a little bit of both. But he
I think Jimmy's smart enough to say the right thing.
He wants to win.
Really?
I think he's smart.
But Jimmy Butler is the guy who will, you take it back to the Timberwolves.
Yeah, he just had a meltdown.
He will tell you whatever you want to know.
Karl Anthony Towns was not close to being on the same level as Joel Embiid.
Yeah, but that's I think what maybe you were saying, Crystal, which is if there was a problem,
Right.
Jimmy Butler doesn't have a filter.
These are strictly growing pains. And when you go back to the offseason, the perimeter work is exactly what Joel Embiid was working on with Drew Hanlon all summer long, to make plays on the perimeter, to improve his shot on the perimeter, to not cower to the double team. Now he's complaining, saying he's being triple teamed. But honestly, if he's being triple teamed, that could open things up for a lot of other players, get that ball out to the open man, sinking a three. I mean, there's going
the ball
to be
needs to come out faster from Embiid when he's getting doubled down low.
right. There's exactly,
And that's something
yes.
that Embiid can work on himself.
I
there's
get
gonna be
from this
growing
that Drew
pains.
Hanlon is 0 for 2 in
No,
developing
no,
Sixers
no.
this past
No,
summer.
no.
because
Joel Embiid can get you 30 a game, easy. That's not how this team can win. It's just not built that way. The NBA has nothing to do with big man. Look at every one of the good teams in the league. None of them have a big man. None of them have a big man averaging over 20 points a game.
Okay.
None of them have, because it's a
it's
different
special
game
that
now.
we
You might
do
be
have
right.
it, though.
Like Capella's a good big man on the
You
Rockets.
can't beat-
He's a good big man.
He's a defensive player, and they don't pass on the ball like that. He gets his points off the board. Embiid is different. They literally come down court 3, 4, 5 possessions in a row, try to establish him in the post or on the perimeter. That's not what the NBA is about anymore.
If you are heavy on the perimeter, correct. But I think what happens is, Embiid may just be the victim of his own size and lack of athleticism when you compare him to somebody like Anthony Davis. But ideally, Embiid, if he were a little bit, and it's not his fault, but if he were more athletic and could play more of a 4, you would see teams having to force and adjust on him more. And maybe that's just, hey, Brett Brown and coaching staff using him more on the outside. See, this is where you and I disagree. I think you can win with a shooting 5, somebody who's a stretch. We haven't seen, this is brand new territory in the NBA. You can't go back 5-10 years and say, hey man, stretch 5s don't work. You don't have stretch. Bill Laimbeer was the last stretch 5.
My point is not that the way that they use Embiid. How many shots did he get tonight? 30?
No, not 30.
How many shots?
I'd say probably
usually
like
I mean,
15 or 16.
he draws a lot of
That's
his
even-
points from the line
Well, he needs
because
to
he
get
can
down
draw
to 10.
a foul.
I'm trying to say,
point.
they spend way too much time trying to get him the ball. If you put a Joel Embiid on a team like Golden State, and this is an extreme because you're going with the best team in the league, he would play, 15, 20 minutes a game at the most.
Wait, hold up though. If you're taking that many shots away from him, who are you giving them to? If you're giving them all to Jimmy, then that's not a good dimensional.
I'm saying the team is built wrong. You have to have somebody else to give those shots to. You can't force the ball into the post. That's my point. No, I'm not saying that they have someone on the team now that you're going to give those shots to. You're giving him that many shots because you don't have anybody
That's right.
else
You
to
got two
score.
scorers.
The problem is you have to have another scorer. Joel, it's not him, because Joel Embiid is the best big man in the league, no doubt about it. However, it's not a big man league anymore. It's not his fault. It's just the league has changed.
But he's
it's a
playing a
perimeter.
different big man.
I feel like this is like
we
Golden
weren't
State
having
Warrior
this
syndrome.
We weren't having
Look
this
at all the best
conversation a
teams in the
while
league.
ago.
Hold on.
Look at all the best teams in the league. Toronto, Boston, obviously Golden State. You could throw the Lakers out there too. Houston. None of those guys have big men. None of them.
We weren't having this conversation before Jimmy Butler got here, so it can't just be because Joel Embiid is taking too many shots. He gets most of his points from the line. The couple of games that he played and they weren't really well, he wasn't getting to the line. I think against Toronto, he only got to the line twice, something like that. So he needs to get more bully ball in the post, draw those fouls, and then he needs to hit his. Of course, right now he's a stretch 5. He has been a stretch 5 the entire season. It has not been a problem until recently.
Right.
He has not made his shots. So before Jimmy Butler got here, he had a decent percentage for a big man from behind the arc.
And by the way,
past
he's
couple
been a
games
stretch,
he has not.
He's been a stretch 5 since he got here. He's never played the classic low post center role. So I was surprised to hear him all of a sudden kind of articulate some kind of dissatisfaction with how he's used.
Only because he's not hitting.
At the same time that when he
he's
wasn't
getting
hitting
his shots in.
Right.
He was 0 for 4.
Right.
So he's getting his shots in. He's mad because he's not hitting.
Yeah.
That's not Brett Brown's
I
fault.
think he's
he was
feeling
hitting
the weight
before.
of being the best player or second, whatever you want, on the team, that all of a sudden he's not playing well. And I think the bottom line with the Sixers is that they don't have enough. I mean, when they bring these guys off the bench that they're bringing in, whether it's TJ, Muscala, they're just not good enough compared to some other really good teams. If you put better players around Ben, Jimmy, and Joel, you could beat anybody except for maybe the Warriors, who I don't know if there is a blueprint for beating the Warriors.
Yeah, but Look at the difference.
So I don't know if it's construction. I think it's talent more
They
than
wouldn't be able to
construction.
beat Toronto. That they got beat up by
You're
the other.
telling me
No,
you
It
didn't
could
put two
also
better
be-
players on the
Yeah, if you put
Sixers
two
and-
better players on any team, they'll beat.
That's
the
all I'm
next team.
saying.
Yeah,
Is
but
that
think
you
about
got?
what
They're
that's
trying to
Every
get
team
one.
you can say that about.
Here's the difference, though. What Brian is saying is, you need to slow Joel Embiid down. Like you need to almost, a governor in a car that.
Like a regulator, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
right? You need to almost put a governor on Embiid, is what you're saying. Like he can go flying down that, but you can't win that way. So you kind of have to reel him back a little
like
bit.
minutes restrictions
no,
again,
I'm
or?
saying from productivity going to him. Brian's saying he's dropping 30 a night. You got to win with him going 18 a night. That's somebody who is going full
And
speed.
they need to get that
you
other
need to
player
go
in
through.
here quickly.
Yes, but my point to you is the difference is you're saying about building the right people around him. That's not with Embiid. So Embiid can play with anybody on the planet.
Right.
Ben Simmons cannot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
That's
It's
the
true.
that's
There
the
has-
biggest difference.
And that's my point. Is they need another shooter.
But you're talking about. I think specifically you're talking about. Hey, when you need to add more people and properly construct this team, it's not for Embiid. It's for Simmons. Embiid can play
That's
with
true.
anybody.
There
I
has not
agree
been
with
one
you.
game this
Yeah.
entire season since we got Butler that Jimmy, Ben, and Embiid have all eaten together at the same table. Has not happened yet. Hopefully it'll happen soon. But what I think this is going to be a story of the past because I think after, he rested last time against the Pistons,
Yep.
I think that's all he needed. He just needed a little bit of motivation. His dad is back in the country. He's going to start balling again. He got his rest. If he just draws fouls, that's where he gets a lot of his points from drawing fouls.
Right.
He did not do that against Toronto. Maybe something got in his head. If he draws his fouls, if he hits maybe 40% from behind the arc instead of going 0 for 4, if he hits one or two of those, it's not even going to be a thought in his head as I don't want to be used as a stretch 5 anymore.
See the difference, and this is my whole thought process on it. You just mentioned something. Draw the foul. That's good. That also slows the game down. It changes the course of the game. Look at the teams on the West Coast. They're up and down the floor. That's how you win. That's how Golden State has won the last 5 years. The teams that have won the last 5 years, up and down the floor. They're not drawing you down into the
You
post.
absolutely have to slow the game down when you're playing a team like Toronto who is so athletic. Because just like Ben Simmons, if you clog the lanes, then he cannot get in there. He cannot get in the post. But also, if
She's
you're
right.
good, if you're good
In the playoffs.
wait, but time out. If you're good in transition too, that's another way to stop Ben Simmons. Because Ben Simmons is great when the defense is not set. So drawing the fouls against really fast teams like that is something that Joel Embiid has to do because we want to slow the game down against super athletic teams like Toronto.
See, the problem with the thought process is when the other team is hitting threes and you're drawing them down, hitting twos, when we saw it last year in Boston, it's the same exact thing. You can't win that way. Consistently over time, when you have players hitting threes, that demoralizes a team. The thought process changes up every time, up and down the floor. We keep getting twos. Oh, they keep getting threes. It changes your thought process. They can't. I mean, they can win. They can win against some decent teams, average teams. The good teams in the league are not built that way. They're up and down the floor. And the reason why Joel is tired on Friday, why Brett Brown said we want to give you a rest, is because they've played teams that get up and down the floor. Toronto, up and down the floor. The team isn't built to win. And Joel, again, he's a great player. I never can take anything away from him. But the game has changed. The game has gone away from what he does naturally really, really well, the best in the league. The game is different now.
That's to his point. They're not a good. They could theoretically.
They're constructed
If they
wrong.
wanted to, well, yeah,
Not
I
because
guess.
of Embiid.
If they could,
No,
not
he's
because of
he's
Joel.
not the problem, but
They could
if
be a
you're trying to
half-court
feed him.
team with Joel, but Ben does not allow this team right now to be a good half-court team.
and that's gonna
and
be
I
the
think it's
up and
really
down
cool,
type
by
of
the way,
point
that we
guard,
can
up and down the
finally
floor, fast
admit
break.
You know,
for a lot of people
Positionless
that Ben is
basketball.
holding
All right,
back.
here we go.